Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for our webinar, where we're going to explain what our new open call is all about, working towards building a cultural industries cluster in Tees Valley. We'll do quick introductions shortly, and then we'll give you a bit of background to the open call, so who it's for, what it is, why we're doing it, what we're looking for, and then also talk you through how to respond. We'll then take some questions, so there's a question and answer box that you can respond to, and we've also invited Anna Byrne, who is from the auxiliary, to kickstart some questions for us. Anna is a member of our Creative Place advisory group, and so we thought it'd be useful to have somebody from the sector to just get the ball rolling. Graham Ramsey from 10 Feet Tall is also hopefully joining us, but is having a bit of a technical issue at the moment, so we may hear from Graham as well. But to start, I'm Charlie Kemp. I'm head of Creative Place at Tees Valley Combined Authority, and I will now introduce you to my colleagues.
Hi, I'm Heather Walker. I'm Creative Place Development Officer at Tees Valley Combined Authority.
Hi, I'm Dawn Finn. I'm also a Creative Place Development Officer working with Charlie as well.
Great. So we will make a start. I'm conscious that there are a few people that are still joining, but this is all being recorded, so we can make the recording available afterwards as well, just in case anybody does miss anything. Thanks, Dom. So our open call for the cultural industries cluster development piece. Our new growth programme is the growth programme for the creative and visitor economies. What we are doing at the Combined Authority is really looking at how the creative sector, the cultural industries, responds to the Combined Authority's objective of driving economic development in the region. What's great about this sector, we know, is that it also creates significant benefits for local communities, and so we are really interested in that sort of 360-degree impact that is generated by this sector. But in terms of how we align with the combined authorities work, there is a real focus for us in terms of the people, the idea, the businesses, the skills that go into creating this really important sector. And it is a sector that's absolutely critical in terms of competitiveness nationally and internationally. I think pre-pandemic, 1 in 11 jobs nationally was in the creative industries. And so if Tees Valley is going to do well at a national level and to kind of continue to punch above its weight and to continue to create a really compelling proposition for people to live here, to study here, to invest here, to visit, then actually making sure that this sector is really thriving is absolutely key to that success. So in building a creative cluster, that's exactly what we're trying to do. You'll see on the slide in front of you some of the characteristics of a creative cluster. But essentially what that means is the way in which the sector kind of establishes the critical mass needed in order for it to thrive and prosper. So this is about building connectivity across individuals and businesses that operate within the cultural industries. It's about driving diversity and representation. It's about connecting practices and methodologies and ways of working. It's about developing new tools, new ways of delivering activity. It's about creating new products which enable creative export to go out from this place to communities and venues around the country and elsewhere in the world. And essentially, it's about making sure that those that are committed to developing really brilliant work in this sector are well supported and feel able to do that work from here in Tees Valley, surrounded by like minds, those that challenge them, those that complement them. You'll see within this diagram that there are sort of 3 underpinning features of a high performing cluster: infrastructure, skills and education, and business support. And those 3 areas are of particular interest to the combined authority. They're areas that we have really good resources in being able to stimulate and support. And essentially, those 3 areas are absolutely essential in terms of creating the conditions for this sector to do well. It isn't about applying a kind of a one-size-fits-all approach to business support, for example. We know that the businesses in this sector, whether they're freelance micro businesses or kind of larger employers of numerous professionals, each business has different needs, different challenges, different characteristics. But what we want to be able to do is create a tailored offer which responds to those characteristics and also helps to find the common areas of need and opportunity that bring everybody together. So we've done a lot of research over the last few months to inform our wider growth programme. And if you want to have a look at the wider growth programme, then you can visit the Creative Place section on the Tees Valley Combined Authority website. But before we finalised what that programme should look like, we undertook some significant baseline research to really ensure that we had a kind of a good grasp of what this sector looks like in this place. Really interestingly, official data will tell you that there are around 4,000 people working in the creative industries in Tees Valley. But when we did a kind of fairly intense data scrape, which is a horrible term, but which looks at LinkedIn profiles and other publicly available profiles, it suggests that actually our workforce is 4 times bigger. So that presents kind of a real challenge to us as a combined authority to ensure that the programme that we deliver is representative of the characteristics of this sector. Now, a lot of the reason for that disparity is that because a number of such a high proportion of those that are operating within this sector do so on a freelance sole practitioner basis, or within kind of businesses that don't kind of meet the threshold in terms of turnover to be reporting annually or kind of counted in that ONS data. There is a risk, therefore, in terms of visibility. I think there is also kind of a need for us to make sure that any intervention that we create really recognises those characteristics and is suitable for businesses that are operating at that smaller scale. So what we want to do is to be able to kind of grow the impacts of this sector by recognising its characteristics and unlocking the potential that that holds. Thanks, Dom. And when we talk about competitiveness, it's worth kind of looking at these two figures. So the creative sector, the creative economy is good for business. It is good for growth. Our creative sector collectively generates an annual turnover of 376 million. But again, going back to the fact that this is a sector that is largely populated by freelancers and micro businesses, 98% of sector businesses have a turnover of less than £1 million. But between them, they are generating 56% of that entire annual turnover. So the more we can connect those businesses and individuals, the more we can connect ideas and skills and enterprises, the more we can support those businesses to scale up and grow what they're doing, the greater the impact in terms of economic growth, and then the kind of the social benefits that go along with the work that those sectors, those businesses produce. So in terms of where we are currently, if you think about all of those characteristics of that creative cluster that we've described already, you can see that we are in Tees Valley at stage 1 of cluster development. That essentially means that we've got most of the right component parts, most of it's there, but it isn't necessarily working together yet in the right way. And that goes for those kind of 3 underpinning areas of infrastructure, skills and education, and business support as well. So a lot of that kind of ecosystem, if you like, exists within Tees Valley, but how it functions together, how it connects, and how we kind of get the multiplier effect of that critical mass is yet to be developed. So that is the challenge that the Combined Authority has taken on through its growth programme for the creative and visitor economies. Over the next 4 years, we're looking to shift from that pre-formation stage, that stage 1, into a more established and emerging critical mass of skill, business and capability in the region. Our baseline research has identified that there are some subsectors within the creative industries that are more advanced in their development. So screen industries, music, festivals and visual arts are all fairly well advanced in comparison with some of the other subsectors of the industry. And so what that means again is that more of the component parts are working together, more of the networks are in place, more of the infrastructure is in place. But again, how we kind of make the whole greater than the sum of the parts and how we connect all of that up is really key. But those areas are slightly more advanced in terms of our cluster development in the region. So our programme then for this open call and more widely as we work towards establishing this creative cluster, there are a number of principles that will underpin our decision making and that we will be expecting to see demonstrated in every investment that we make, every intervention that is delivered on our behalf. So one is around strengthening business models. We really want to make sure that the businesses that we're supporting are more robust, more sustainable for the long term. And so that might be about supporting them to increase their capacity. It might be about supporting them to increase their skills and their capabilities. It might be about kind of supporting them to diversify their income streams, but absolutely making sure that fundamentally the businesses that are delivering the activity are sustainable, robust, and well supported is at the heart of this piece of work. Connected to that, obviously, as we've talked about already, is the need for collaboration and connectivity. We don't want people to be working in silos or working in isolation. And I think particularly when you have a sector that is so populated by freelancers, there is a risk that people feel quite isolated. They don't necessarily know what support is available to them. They don't necessarily see the pathways that will support their development. But then equally between businesses, recognising the value in teaming up to tackle shared problems and shared challenges, developing solutions together is a really powerful thing. And so we really want to embed that spirit of collaboration and connectivity across the piece. We also want to create the level of regional export that we have. So we recognise that exporting cultural and creative products is a really important income generator for businesses within this sector. But equally, it's really key to raising awareness of the value of Tees Valley's creative businesses and creative economy, and kind of acts as a calling card from the region to other parts of the country or elsewhere in the world. And so we want to support the creation of exportable products which help to develop sustainable business models. So I think there's a point of clarification that's just needed there. The combined authority is not an investor in content as such. It is an investor in sellable products which can be exported. So there's a difference, I guess, between what we would invest in and what Arts Council would invest in that anything that we're investing in as creative content has to be able to be sold, if you like, with a view to creating a sustainable income stream within a business model. Growing reach and relevance is something that is really important, both from a sort of increasing audiences and kind of generating market demand perspective, but also in terms of how we serve our local communities. Part of this is connected to the point that you might see in the bottom corner there around growing diversity and representation. The work and the products of this sector need to be relevant to communities across Tees Valley and beyond, and we really want to support businesses to increase their reach and relevance to a wider range of audiences. There's also a point there about developing, attracting and retaining skills and talent. I'm thinking about when we were at the early stages of the pandemic and we were working with our sector task force. One of the first concerns that was expressed from a number of partners was about those emerging graduates or college leavers, those people at the very, very start of their career for whom the industry that they expected to work in had just changed beyond recognition, and the risk that presented to Tees Valley in terms of brain drain, talent drain, something that we've been struggling with for some time. We want to make sure that this is a really brilliant place for people to start their creative career and to develop their creative career. So this is about, you know, early career support, but also recognizing that people want to progress. They want to be able to pursue other nourishing, fulfilling roles and shouldn't have to leave Tees Valley in order to do that. So we want to kind of create an ecosystem which supports people at all career stages and enables us to keep that brilliant talent in the region. You may be aware that the Combined Authority has set ambitious targets around net zero, and this is something that we believe our sector has something really positive to offer, and so all of the projects that we support, all of the interventions that we make will need to demonstrate their environmental responsibility and the way in which they can help to address that kind of cleaner, greener and more sustainable future for the region, whether that's through influencing behaviours, whether that's about kind of the reach that you might have with communities, whether that's about delivery mechanisms. All of that will be taken into consideration. And finally, this point about being very focal by design. The Combined Authority works across Tees Valley. The work that we do has to be strategically relevant to the region as a whole. But that doesn't mean that we are trying to replicate one thing in 5 places, or that we believe that everything has to be the same everywhere. Actually, the 5 boroughs that we represent are diverse and distinctive, and each have their unique stories and characteristics to offer. And so our principle is that our investment should be relevant. It should have relevance, whether that's about learning, whether that's about kind of establishing best practice, whether that's about, you know, cross-boundary partnerships or cross-boundary delivery, but it needs to be able to be delivered in a way which is authentic to the particular location in which activity will happen. So that's what we mean about being very focal by design. So I'm going to hand over to Heather, who's going to talk a little bit about the open call specifically and whether or not it might be the right pathway for you.
Thank you. So yeah, so is it for you? We wanted to make it as wide as possible in terms of applicants and types of applicants. So this call is open to all sizes of business and individuals or like partnerships, so freelancers, charitable, not-for-profit, social enterprises, as well as a consortia, which might be a mix of those organisations. And we're also open to applications from local authorities and FE and HE institutions, but they will need to have independent sector partners working with them, whether that's in a consortia or in an MOU or whatever, an agreement. So yes, we wanted to open up to as many people as possible. You know, as Charlie talked about, we know that there's a lot of small micro businesses out there, so this is definitely for you. And as you might have seen if you've looked at the guidance in the website, we have 3 different pathways, and so essentially test and explore is around that sort of starting idea or an R&D or something around where you really want to sort of innovate and have take that chance to develop a project or a program or a new business, to get some support for that first step. Pathway 2 is MOBILISE. And that is about projects that have already got a sort of proven model, it's working, but it's time to sort of get it going, get it to a wider audience and develop it and you know, make that step change. And then scale up is around projects that are, you know, are already very, you know, well embedded and successful, but they really want to scale up, grow, reach more people and really make a strategic difference to Tees Valley. So those are the 3 pathways, and we'll go into more detail about what that means for this call in a minute. So I just wanted to talk through the programme objectives. So the overall objective is around that these projects or programmes or the investment we make contributes to the sustainable sector growth of the cultural industries in Tees Valley. And as Charlie's outlined, we really want to catalyse that growth of the cluster and make it a really vibrant cluster through our support. So all projects that are supported through the programme, we want to make sure that they're sustainable so that they have long-term impact rather than just being like one-off projects or a sort of quick fix short-term thing. We want to see projects that leverage external funding and bring match funding into play. This is specific to the MOBILISE and scale up pathways. So those 2 pathways need to have cash match in place, whereas the test and explore, it is not a requirement to have cash match, but it is encouraged, of course. And then obviously we want to make sure that all the projects are, whatever the project we support, they're delivered in the Tees Valley and they're for the benefit of Tees Valley's cultural industries. And as Charlie's outlined, be very vocal by design and be environmentally responsible, which we've already talked about. So in terms of project outcomes, this is very much quality and not quantity. We want to see projects that really effectively address some of these outcomes. So it might not be all of them, might be one of them really, really well. But so essentially we want to see strengthening of business models, and that might be around diversifying income streams and building resilience or creating new roles to do something different. Fostering innovation and collaboration and connectivity, again, all going back to sort of overall objectives that Charlie outlined earlier. So whether that's developing a new network or a knowledge exchange between different partners or a skill sharing program. We want to increase the regional cultural and creative export, so developing products that are really creating new revenue streams and bringing money back into the region. Developing, attracting and retaining skills and talent, and growing diversity and representation in the workforce. And we want projects that really try to look at environmental impacts, whether that again that's through behaviour or a specific new innovation in terms of how you deliver something. And we do want, you know, our overall growth programme objective is about trying to bring more money into the region from outside. So that's a really key objective. So those are the project outcomes we want your projects to hit and really effectively deliver on.
So we're just going to go through the investment pathways in a bit more detail now. breaking each of them down. So test and explore. This is for projects that are in a really early stage. So we recognise the importance of IP and having that time to develop IP. So
Intellectual property.
sorry, yeah, intellectual property. I didn't know what that meant at first. So yes, we want to give you the time to do that. So that this, in terms of investment levels, this is for projects that would just cost from £1,000 up to 10k, and for 12 months. So the application process for this is really simple. It's just a one-stage application, which is just an online form, which is live now. And there are 2 deadline dates that you can submit that form.
So the MOBILISE pathway, as I've outlined, is for projects that are, have got a model, it's working, and you want to, put that out into the world in a bigger, different way. And so we've got investment levels of between over 10k and up to 150k. And projects, we want them, give time for it to bed in. So projects that last from 1 year to up to 3 years, 3 to 6 months. And for this one, there is a 3-step application process. So you need to submit an online EOI. We want to sort of just make it a simple first step to tell us about your project and what you want to achieve. And you can submit that anytime. And we've just added the end date, which would be the 27th of January, would be the last chance to put an EOI in order to turn around to a full application if you were invited to do so. So all successful EO applicants, once they've been assessed, would be invited to a meeting with the Creative Place Development Officer. So that'd be either myself or Dom. And in that meeting, we just want to sort of hear a bit more about your project, what outcomes it's going to hit, and also try to connect up if there's any leverage in sort of introducing you to different partners or making you aware of different programs, so that there's a bit more of a strategic development in that process. And then once that's all been assessed, we would invite you to make a full application and email you a full application form. And we have just published now the full application form, so you can see it in advance, so you've got some time to prepare and look at it in advance. So that's now on the website as well. And again, so those full applications would need to come in by the 2 deadlines that we've published, which we'll show you in a minute.
And the third investment pathway is the scale-up pathway. So this is about projects which are already delivering, which are already proving positive impacts, and which are ready to make a significant step change in their reach and their impact. So this might be the work of a business which is ready to go to a new level. It might be a program which is able to reach new people, new beneficiaries, but it is about where there's already a kind of a strong track record, really enabling that work to increase in its reach and impact. And always there will be an eye on sustainability. So the Combined Authorities intervention ought to be to enable a longer term sustainable outcome for that program or that activity. So we don't expect these to be quick projects to deliver. So again, we're anticipating that you'll probably need between 12 and 36 months to deliver a scale-up project. Investment levels of up to 350k. I should say that we are open to conversations with our boundaries. There's not kind of a hard stop, but these are indicative investment levels, which we advise that you stick to. But if there is an incredibly, unique opportunity that just edges over any of those boundaries, then do have a chat with us. But for now, we're kind of, the guidance is that this is for initiatives that have value of up to 350k from TVCA. Obviously match is required, but we haven't specified the level of match. We just encourage match, the more the better. If it isn't secured by the time that you make an application to us, that might be something that we would look to work on with you and would condition as part of a funding agreement. Similarly, with the MOBILISE pathway, the scale-up investment pathway is a 3-step application process. And we've done this to try to ensure that people aren't spending lots of time submitting or developing proposals that just aren't right, that just aren't going to kind of fit the bill. So submit the EOI form online at any point until 27th of January. That'll be assessed. If you kind of meet the essential criteria and it feels as though the initiative that you're describing meets the objectives of the programme, then you would be invited to a meeting with a creative place officer, so either Heather or Dom, and following that conversation, if we feel that it's ripe for support, then we would invite you to make a full application. So we're really mindful of people's time and capacity. So we want to protect businesses through that process by only doing kind of what is necessary at the right time. So as Heather says, have a look at the form that we've made available online. Don't start filling it out until you've been through the EOI process.
So the deadlines for submission, there are 2. So at the end of this year is on the 28th of November. And then applicants will be notified of the outcome of that on the 16th of December. And then in 2023, 17th of February is the next deadline, with applicants notified on the 10th of March. So EOIs are open now, as are Test and Explore applications.
So I think that brings us to the end of our planned information sharing, and we are now really happy to answer any questions that you might have. As I said at the beginning, we've invited Anna Byrne to kick off the Q&A session. So Anna is part of the auxiliary based in Middlesbrough, working across the region, and is a member of our Creative Place Advisory Group. So we felt that she would be really well placed to give us a bit of a grilling. So Anna, do you want to start with your questions? And if other people have questions, then please feel free to drop them into the Q&A box and we will work our way through them.
Okay, hi everybody, and thanks Charlie and Heather and Dom. That's really interesting. Really good to know all that information. I think you answered some of my questions, Charlie. I suppose just with the difference of, you spoke a little bit about the difference in terms of TVCA funding and Arts Council funding. Can you kind of talk a little bit more about that difference, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's a great question, and it's something that we've given quite a lot of consideration to, is what is the role of the combined authority as opposed to other investment partners and other stakeholders. I think obviously that, you know, when people are looking at who might support their project, often they're thinking about Arts Council, maybe the Heritage Lottery Fund, maybe local authorities. And so we were really conscious that the combined authority needed to have quite a clear focus about what its objectives were. So for us, the focus is absolutely on economic development. So we are really interested in job creation. We are really interested in business growth. We are really interested in skills development. And we believe that investing in those things helps to then unlock wider benefits for local communities, visitors to the region. So I think understanding the purpose of the combined authority, what we're set up to do, why we're doing it, is really key to making sure that people angle their proposals to us in that way. So Arts Council obviously is an organisation which is designed with the cultural well-being of the nation in mind. It is absolutely there to support the production of cultural content, whether that's a one-off or an ongoing piece of work. It doesn't discriminate between those things. It is there with a focus on the cultural life of the country. The combined authority is approaching that with a slightly different lens, in that we are absolutely about unlocking the economic value of the creative sector in the region, and wanting to ensure that our sector is robust and resilient and sustainable enough in order to achieve those benefits for local communities and local audiences. So hopefully that's clear, but I think that is one thing from the programs that we've delivered already. I think knowing your audience, knowing what it is about the Combined Authority, what it is that we're trying to achieve and how you can help us do it is really key. We refer to ourselves as being an investor rather than a funder, because we absolutely are looking for a return in terms of the impact that is created locally. And if we're investing in your business, your skills, your ideas, that is with a view that it unlocks a significant impact for the region. And so I think hopefully that helps people to make a bit of a distinction in terms of when it would be appropriate to chat to us, when it would be appropriate to chat to Arts Council. It might be that you're speaking to both of us, but we both might need slightly different versions of the story.
Thanks, Charlie. I don't know if there are other questions. Should I ask more questions, or are there questions in the...
They are coming in, Anna, but do you want to just do one more from you and then we will work our way through the...
Oh, okay. So let me just see.
Oh, I'm putting you...
The small capital investment. Can you give any kind of more information about that?
Yeah, essentially, the Combined Authority has already invested in significant capital programs across Tees Valley. So any proposal that comes to us should not be primarily concerned with capital. So it's unlikely that we would be investing in the building of a new building through this programme. We recognise that there may be elements of capital that are required. So it might be about adapting access, it might be about new equipment, but actually that should be kind of the minority part of the proposal, because we're really conscious that actually what we need to be doing is supporting that sort of the softer infrastructure, the skills, the business support that goes into helping the sector to thrive. So we can include consideration of elements of capital, but it shouldn't be the focus of the bid.
Okay, thanks. And can I just ask really quickly as well about feedback for people that aren't successful?
Yeah, absolutely. We will provide feedback to everybody. If your expression of interest is not successful, or it's not something that we're looking to pursue at this time, we'll provide feedback in writing and give some indication as to why that was. And then similarly, if we've had a conversation with you and then if you ultimately submit a more detailed proposal, we would provide feedback at all levels and try and make that as clear and concise as we can, so that people understand the rationale for our decision making. One thing that I should say as well, whilst we're talking about decision making, when it gets to full proposal stage, our team will do an initial assessment, and then we'll pass assessment through to an independent panel that we will formulate with the kind of diverse range of skills and insights and expertise, who will look at the assessment, challenge it, ask questions, and make a recommendation back to the Combined Authority about what its portfolio of investment should look like. We'll then do the due diligence, so kind of checks and balances, make sure that we're confident in the delivery partners that have been identified before confirming the investment. So we've got a fairly robust process to make sure that we are kind of really open and transparent in the decisions that we're making, why we're making them. Okay.
Should we go to Graham? And
Thanks.
Great, thanks, Anna. Oh, and Graham Ramsey from 10 Feet Tall has joined us. I know you've been having some technical problems, Graham. Thank you ever so much for jumping on. Did you have a question that you wanted to kick off with?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we've got you now, Graham. Sorry, thank you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
First of all, I just think that the kind of rationale of all of these different three strands is brilliant, and it can encourages progression and innovation, and it looks really well designed. It's really exciting. You know, I'm sure the region will get a lot out of it. So, and that's not me just being kissy ass. So,
thanks.
My question really, I was just wondering what sort of advice. Obviously, the two bigger programs have got the face-to-face meeting built in after the expression of interest. Out with this, if say somebody wants to apply to test and explore, or somebody wants to contact yourselves and kind of get, you know, a bit of a steer ahead of the EOI for the bigger programs. Is that an option?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we will share our contact details in. Do we have a chat?
Oh yeah. Oh no, it's coming at the end slide.
Our final slide has our contact details, and absolutely, you know, we very much, I think I said before that we don't want to be that sort of arm's length invisible funder. Actually, we are really you know, the value of us being a place-based organisation should absolutely mean that we work in partnership with businesses in the sector. So we are available to chat ideas through, to answer questions. Yeah, so if there's anything that you kind of want to pick our brains about, then by all means, we're at the end of an email or at the end of the phone.
I've got a couple of other questions if that's not crowding anybody out.
Go for it, and then we will, if you've got two, Graham, that'd be great, and then we can go to the wider.
Great. First one's very straightforward, I think. Is there any advantage to getting in for the first deadline, for the November deadline, rather than waiting for March, or is there a big chunk ring fest for March and it really doesn't make a difference?
It really doesn't make a difference. There is a great advantage in taking your time and getting it right. I think rather than rushing an application, it's better to hang on a bit if you're not quite there yet. And I think one rule of thumb that I think most financial partners would recommend is not chasing the money. Do what makes sense for your business, your practice. If the idea isn't sort of already in your head at the time that the opportunity comes out, then it's probably not the right time. So I think rather than rushing to get something in for November, I think take your time if that's beneficial, but also make a really sharp decision about whether or not this is the right route for what you're trying to do as a business or as a sole practitioner. In terms of financial split, we're probably looking to invest around £750,000 across the two, across kind of between now and the end of the year. And that might be, you know, a couple of massive projects. It might be lots of little projects that come in through Test and Explore. We're really going to be kind of guided by the appetite and the interest.
Great.
Sorry, we just almost had a power outage there that caused a slight panic, but yeah, so we will be guided by the sort of the interest and the response, and we'll make sure that we're not kind of front loading all of our decisions in the first round.
I think the only other question I was going to ask is I'm kind of really intrigued by this idea of music and visual arts being sort of priorities for these programs. Is there anything, I mean, obviously you wait and see what comes in, but is there any sort of further guidance you can give in terms of like why you've picked those sectors and what kind of a thing you might be looking to see?
So I think the evidence that we have already really indicates that most of the component parts in those sectors are here, both in terms of infrastructure and in terms of talent and skills pathways, but they're not necessarily working together yet in the way that they need to. And so I think interventions that would really help to accelerate that connectivity and that sense of the kind of completeness of those ecosystems, those ideas, those proposals are what we would be really excited to receive. So they're likely to need multiple partners. They're likely to need kind of really clear evidence base. But yeah, absolutely, the kind of the projects that help to connect up and fill the gaps of those ecosystems, that respond to particular challenges that might be kind of inhibiting the growth of those particular sectors. They're the kind of proposals that we're looking for.
Brilliant, thank you.
Okay,
Right, so we have a question.
thanks, Graham.
We have a question from Joan. Is it possible to submit more than one project?
Is that from John?
It's actually Joan.
Oh, it's from Joan. Hi, Joni. It is possible to submit more than one proposal. And obviously we will look at them separately, and we will arrange conversations with you accordingly. But if you've got kind of two burning ideas, proposals that you'd like to us to consider, then absolutely you're welcome to submit more than one.
So a question from Gay Kirby. What level of match funding are you looking for in open call applications? Will you be asking for cash and in-kind support?
We deliberately haven't specified the amount that we're looking for in match, but we have said there needs to be cash match for the mobilise and scale up pathways. Arts Council sort of indicate 20% as being an appropriate level of match. We would certainly be looking for serious projects. They should have the potential to at least achieve that. But what's probably important is that you don't necessarily have to have that match in place at the time of submission. What you should have done is identified other potential funding partners. And if the proposal is is something that we really want to pursue with you, we would then commit to working with you to helping to kind of build that match up. So if you've got it in place to begin with, brilliant, but it can be something that we would condition as part of our grant, our funding agreement, and the more match the better. Again, for serious proposals, probably not looking at less than 20%.
So the next question is from Henry Carden, and can match funding come from future sales revenue, e.g. ticket sales, or does it need to be in place from the start of the project? So we kind of
I think
that.
We've sort of done it. Absolutely, yes, Henry. Income to be generated is fine, and then we would look at how we can help you to make sure that you meet those targets. Not that we would buy all your tickets, but like we would help through like our Enjoy Tees Valley platform, through the sort of the networks that we have. We would kind of look at how we can support you to achieve those targets.
So a question from James Beaton. Two practical questions. One, can the same organisation consortium apply to different pathways with different projects?
Yes.
Yes. And two, is if an initial EOI is turned down, would a follow-up be accepted?
Yes.
Yes,
this is an ongoing conversation. So yes, on both fronts, James.
And so now a question from Dave Pratt. Can you provide more information on the differences between the knowledge transfer partnerships you mentioned in the call and those offered by Innovate UK and the AHRC's Design Exchange partnerships? Are they to address the issues faced by the sector in the meeting the strict requirements of the other investors?
Okay, if I don't answer this clearly, Dave, then feel free to kind of prompt further. Oh, Dave has got his hand up. Can we hear Dave? Or
Yeah, I can switch.
Oh, we're going to come to you live, Dave.
Coming to you live. Allowed to talk.
Okay, so if we take you off mute, I think, Dave.
Unmuted. Thanks.
There we go.
So what it is, I've just seen the guidance. I was looking at it, I was thinking that one of the issues that the creative sector has is it's really difficult for them to access these more traditional KTPs, and the new design KTPs, effectively the depth call from the HRC, they're about changing business design consultancy with like the KTP model. For people out there who don't know what a KTP model is, it's the idea that you put the graduate into a company supported by an academic. The graduate's an employee of the company and they work on an innovation project. When I saw that in the guidance that you mentioned KTPs, I just thought, there must be a difference. There must be. Otherwise, just you guys never displace funding. That would be crazy, wouldn't it? So I'm just wondering.
No, I think we're talking about a kind of a less formal structure of knowledge transfer partnership. I think essentially what we're talking about is a structured coming together of businesses or partners with complementary skill sets and knowledge to tackle a shared challenge, or to identify a shared solution, and to unlock the benefits of working together and benefiting from each other's skills. So there's probably we probably should have chosen a less formalized way of saying that, because we're not talking about that kind of super formal difficult to access model. We are talking about transferring knowledge and sort of collaboration, and that might be within the sector or it might be cross sector.
That's quite exciting, actually. That's quite an exciting idea. If it doesn't even need a university, you could have really good cross-sectoral knowledge transfer going on there if it's done right. Sounds really good. Thanks. Thanks for clarifying.
No problem. Thank you for your question.
Has anyone got any other questions? That's the end of the list. Any other questions out there that we haven't addressed? Anything more from Graham or Anna that you haven't managed to ask?
No, I had a couple more questions on my list, but they've been addressed by other people. So
Great.
I feel very well informed.
Good.
Excellent.
Well, if anyone's got any other questions, please do get in touch, and I'm going to put the slides back on so that you can get in touch and get that email up. Yeah.
I think the key thing is, if in doubt, give us a shout. Oh, that's really cheesy. I rhymed it. But if in doubt, do get in touch with us. We would much rather kind of help you unpick your thinking and make sure that you kind of not expelling loads of unnecessary energy on something that isn't quite the right fit. And equally, we can kind of work between us to help you kind of really get to the root of what it is that you want to achieve. We can kind of put, if you're getting some guidance from a member of the team, we can create a Chinese wall to make sure that that doesn't overtly influence the decision-making process. So please do use us to help yourself navigate this process. And we're really looking forward to seeing the proposals that you're going to come up with.
So, I've lost it here. Here we go. So, yeah, so if you want to get in touch, it's creativeplace@teesvalley-ca.gov.uk. So do that. And just a reminder of the deadlines again, just so you've got them ingrained in your brain. Yeah. Do
you want to go back to the email one? So this email address is just being used exclusively for the open call at the moment. So anything that comes into that, a member of the team will pick it up and we'll get back in touch with you. We will save this and make it available. Where will we make it available? On our website, on the Combined Authority website.
Yeah, Tees Valley Business website, where all the information is at the moment.
Yeah, and we've got, because you've registered, we've got your details, so we can send it to you directly as well. Thank you ever so much for tuning in and for sharing your questions with us. Oh, is that a new question that's just come in? No, that's thank you. Oh, you're welcome, Blooming Arch. You are welcome. All right, thanks ever so much, everybody. Have a nice evening and we will see you soon.